44-year-old Marina Blackwood went missing in March 2017 from the small town of Youghal in County Cork. For years, family, friends, and the local community held out hope while her loving and devoted husband made desperate pleas for her safe return. "Marina, come home. Nobody's mad at you. My arms are open." There were few clues in her disappearance, as well as reason to believe that she could have voluntarily left to begin a new life. That is until a horrific discovery revealed the disturbing truth.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
The seaside resort town of Youghal in County Cork, Ireland, is home to a small population of under 9,000 residents, as well as 3 beautiful beaches. It was in this picturesque landscape, standing next to the lighthouse, that a 21-year-old Samuel Blackwood proposed his 19-year-old girlfriend Marina back in 1989. The two originally met and began dating after Marina moved in next door to Samuel in his hometown of Colville, which is near Leicester in England. Marina had moved in to live with her grandmother, who subsequently raised her. In her teenage years, she made a connection with Samuel, a few years her senior. Following their wedding, the couple relocated to Ireland. They eventually found themselves settling in the same resort town, where they had formally decided to share their lives together. The couple purchased a multi-level terrace house on Grattan Street in Youghal. Samuel worked as a truck driver. The two made some extra cash selling clothing and other secondhand items at car boot sales, where independent vendors sell various, often used, or otherwise unique products. They never had any children but doted on their pets, namely a parrot named Peach and 2 dogs, Heidi and Ruby. Money was tight. They had been collecting assistance funds for years, but they got by. Extra funds always went to keeping Marina in new outfits. She had a love for fashion. Life as the Blackwoods knew it changed in March 2017. On the 24th of that month, Samuel contacted the local Garda to report his wife missing. He had not seen Marina in 4 days, he said. At first, Samuel was not terribly concerned. Their parrot, Peach, had recently fallen ill and passed away. The loss was devastating to Marina, like the loss of a child. Samuel said she had been generally unhappy, and their marriage had suffered as a result. He also noted that at least 2 suitcases were missing. Only as time passed, and he had heard nothing from her, did he begin to worry. That is when he checked their money box, which had been tucked away in the house with their life savings inside in cash. This box that Samuel claimed had once held 26,000 euros was now empty. 28 years we've been together, 25 years married, and it's just completely odd. It's just completely thrown me because it's so totally out of character for her. Well, she got up in the morning. I did my usual thing, cup of tea, slice of toast, and she asked me if I'd drop off Dungavin, which is only like a 20-minute drive away. And when I returned something like 2 hours later, she just wasn't there. I found her keys on the ground as I went through the front door. So I just said she's gone out for a walk. And when she didn't come back, naturally get a bit sickly feeling, I suppose. We'd had conversations of late. So I said, right, she's gone down to a member of the family in Cork. So I gave her a couple of days. I had to go down to visit my doctor on the Friday. And then when I found out nobody had seen her, it was like everything just fell away. It's just totally odd that there's been nobody to say they have seen her. Especially with living here on a main road. My original thoughts, she got up to have a break, get her head straight, because she's been very upset in recent months. She's had a few crises within the family over the last few years. I think it took its toll, and that's why I think she got up and walked out. Detectives sourced hours of CCTV footage across the general urban area in Youghal. They hoped to catch a glimpse of Marina voluntarily leaving her home, dragging her suitcases with her, but there was no sign of her on the footage. A social media campaign was launched, and photos of Marina circulated. The media was engaged in the effort. The Garda went door to door in the neighborhood. As time passed, Samuel's pleas for help in finding his wife grew more desperate. "Give her back on the lips." I said, "I'll see you in a couple of hours, love." The last thing I said to her, a couple of hours. And that was 3 months. "Marina, come home. There's nobody mad at you. My arms are open. The pets are missing you. I just can't go on not knowing. You need to just ring the guards. Let people know that you're all right. Those close to Marina thought it odd that she would voluntarily leave and choose not to take her dogs with her. Samuel offered that finding accommodation while traveling with the pets would be difficult, so she likely left them behind for that reason. He held out hope that she would simply show up back at their house one day. Well, I'm hoping that Marina's out there and she's going to get in touch. I don't want to be honest with you. Go down the road of thinking the other way because I won't be able to cope. The Garda, however, began to question Samuel's account. There had been no activity on Marina's bank account, nor on her phone. Of course, according to her husband, she was in possession of thousands of euros in cash and had left her phone behind when she left. Detectives obtained a search warrant, and in June 2017, when Samuel was away for work, a team of over 10 personnel entered the house and searched inside. When they entered, they reported finding the home filthy. Dog feces covered portions of the floor. A bird cage had not been cleaned, and clothing items, hundreds of them, some new and others used, were draped in plastic, hung on railings in various areas of the house. A forensic scientist was brought in to test across the entire home for the presence of blood. After 12 hours of searching, they found nothing. Though 2 computers were seized, the data was scrutinized over the following weeks. Detectives found that Samuel Blackwood had used a handful of different email addresses over the previous 3 years. Through these accounts, they found regular communications with an organization that described itself as an international monkey rescue. In multiple email streams and text messages, Samuel was engaged in conversation with someone by the name of Mr. James from this organization. They were arranging the purchase of 2 marmoset monkeys named Terry and Thelma. Transactions through Western Union revealed funds of an undisclosed amount regularly being sent to this apparent rescue association. All the while, the Blackwoods' shared bank account was shown to be in a state of overdraft almost constantly over the same period. Financial problems aside, the couple seemed very keen to obtain these monkeys. The last message sent from Samuel to Mr. James was on March 20th, 2017, the same day that Samuel claimed to have last seen Marina. He wrote that he had nothing more to send to them, but if the monkeys did not arrive, his wife was going to leave him. Twice a week, Samuel would drive to the local Tesco supermarket to play the lottery and make other purchases. On July 9th, months after Marina went missing, Samuel pulled into the parking lot of the supermarket and spotted 2 suitcases next to the large recycling bins. The sight of these suitcases sent chills down his spine, he said. After photographing them, he contacted the Garda and told them what he had found. Local media, which had been following the case with bated breath, awaited the results of forensic testing on these abandoned suitcases. They took the suitcases away, and they have been forensically examined over the last number of weeks. We ran the story yesterday that the suitcases were found. Garda at Middleton are anxious to detect if anybody unconnected to the investigation left the suitcases there to be disposed of, or if somebody is actually playing mind games with Samuel Blackwood, or is somebody trying to thwart the investigation in some shape or form. My understanding is that the suitcases were empty. Okay, but empty, that's my understanding because Samuel didn't open them, so he doesn't know that. But my understanding is that there was nothing in either of the suitcases. But a hairbrush has been sent away for DNA testing. Sometimes, if it's an urgent case, the Garda will speed things up, but still, science is science. It can take a while, and we don't know if they have linked the suitcases for definite to Marina Blackwood or not. When the results were returned, there was no connection made to Marina Blackwood. As time went on, every piece of information submitted to inspectors was tracked down. In the spring of 2018, what the Garda described as a credible tip was received through social media. It led them to a thorough search of the Castle Martyr Woods, also known by locals as Mitchell's Woods Loop. It was later reported that a strange man was spotted acting suspiciously in the area around the same time that Marina was reported missing. Garda at Middleton Garda Station are investigating the disappearance of Marina Blackwood from Youghal in County Cork, who was last seen in March of 2017. An incident room is established in Middleton Garda Station, and a team of detectives are working on Marina's disappearance. To date, There have been 220 separate lines of inquiry conducted. This has included liaison with Interpol, and today we are conducting a search here at Mitchell's Wood, Bridgestown, Castle Martyr in County Cork. We are looking for evidence in relation to Marina's disappearance, and we have, for the purposes of this search, restricted access to this area. Over 60 Garda were joined by roughly 30 military personnel to systematically comb through 40 acres of woodland. Items of interest were located, bagged, and sent for testing. Ultimately, however, there was nothing of relevance to the investigation found. It was not a surprise that in the eyes of the public, Samuel Blackwood was the main suspect in the disappearance of his wife. Over the following years, he spoke with reporters regularly, asserting his innocence. If I was asked to take a lie detector test, I'll take one. My house was searched without my knowledge, and the guys didn't find anything to suggest anything untoward. I live on a main street, so my comings and goings are seen. So, I don't know why people are being so malicious. Are you an innocent man? I am. I'm innocent. I'm innocent of any wrongdoing. There were inconsistencies with his many assertions. He was running out of money for the monkeys, yet claimed to have over 25,000 euros in cash stashed away in his money box. Detectives found it suspicious that the Blackwoods would have been capable of saving that amount of money at all. Samuel's claims that they made hundreds of euros a week on the side with their clothing sales did not seem to account for the alleged size of their savings pot. A forensic accountant found that in addition to his overdrawn bank account, Samuel's credit line was also either almost fully used or, at times, breached. This was partly due to his plans to build his wife a large walk-in closet for her many outfits. Other credit went to purchasing new articles of clothing for her, he said. All the while, he was sending money to the monkey rescue organization. Samuel was later forced to admit that the arrangement to purchase Terry and Thelma was almost certainly a scam. One day, my wife is going to turn back up, or she's going to get in touch with the Garda. One way or another, this will all come out, and in time, it'll all prove that I've done nothing wrong. In the summer of 2022, the case was handed over to Superintendent and Marie Toomey to take a fresh look at the evidence. Amongst other actions, the superintendent called upon the expertise of forensic archaeologist Dr. McCullough, who specializes in murder investigations in which remains have been thoroughly concealed. After a thorough assessment of the case, the doctor's report drew a few conclusions. One of these was based upon years of studying domestic murders. When a spouse is killed, it is usually in the home, and they are often buried nearby. Dr. McCullough believed, based on the observations of reported structural changes to the house on Grattan Street, that an invasive search of the home was likely to reveal the remains of Marina Blackwood. In October 2023, another search warrant was obtained for the home. A cadaver dog was brought in to assist. On the first day, the dog showed intense interest around the second step of the stairway, which extended from the living room. The stairs were made of new, untreated, and unpainted wood. The wall to the side of it was made of unpainted plasterboard, which also looked relatively new. Under the stairs, detectives noted a new, poorly constructed brick wall. On the second day, after the stairway had been excavated, the dog was brought in once more. This time, the dog performed what is called a full freeze position, directed at the uncovered area where the stairs had once been, in a hole nearly 3 feet deep. Far further down, the detectives had anticipated finding a clandestine grave. They came upon black plastic. Then they spotted a hand. Often if I was out and about and I seen something in a shop window, I knew it'd be Marina's style. It wouldn't matter how expensive it would be or anything like that. I'd buy it. You'd buy it. Yeah. You liked her to look well. Oh yeah, that's... I suppose some people can say, oh, she's a trophy wife. I mean, you've got somebody that beautiful on your arm, naturally to make you look good. Despite her outbursts, he truly loved her. For these reasons, he said, he suffered her abuse in private. Given the opportunity to tell his doctors about injuries that his wife had inflicted on him, he always stayed silent. Curiously, the couple always attended their doctor's checkups together, a move that suggested a controlling relationship. But if so, who was controlling whom? Counter to Samuel's claims of Marina's Jekyll and Hyde personality were assertions made by friends of Marina's, who said they had not once witnessed the type of behavior that her husband described. Indeed, only one day prior to her disappearance, Marina had told a friend at a car boot sale that there was only ever one man in her life. She loved her husband dearly. That friend insisted Marina would never have contemplated any action that would harm her husband. Indeed, it seemed that she would do anything for him. In the wake of the horrific discovery of Marina's remains, friends, family, and the community who had held out hope for her safe return gathered to honor the woman they had known. Marina would put a smile on anyone's face. She had a very bubbly personality and was a sociable person. She was always out and about with her babies, Ruby and Heidi. She loved her fashion. She was always dressed so well. We will cherish the moments and all the great memories we spent with you. Following his arrest, Samuel Blackwood had stated that he would plead guilty to murder before he would allow the public a glimpse into his dysfunctional marriage and his wife's alleged erratic behavior. However, when the time came, Samuel Blackwood pleaded not guilty to the murder. He claimed to have killed Marina in an act of self-defense. In his new version of events, Samuel told the Garda that he awoke early on the morning of March 20th, around 5:30 a.m. It was his routine to make tea and toast to deliver to Marina in bed. Then he spent some time in their shed fixing some plumbing before returning to the house at around 9 o'clock. He found his wife was at the bottom of the stairs with a chisel in her hand. She had been scraping plasterboard, which he had recently put up. She wore only a dressing gown. When he asked her what she was doing, she turned and came at him, chisel in hand. Samuel claimed to have then lost his footing and fell on the ground. With his wife on top of him, he was struggling to stop her from stabbing him in the head with the chisel. All he could do to protect himself, he claimed, was to take the belt of her gown and hold it at her neck, effectively lifting her weight off of him. In what he said was a matter of seconds, she became limp and fell into his arms. In his grief and shock, he held her for hours. He then transferred her to the sofa, where he sat again next to her for some time. He contemplated dressing her up in one of her favorite dresses, but thought better of it. Eventually, he transferred her to a chest freezer that he kept in the shed. Over the following few days, he dug a grave under the stairs, wrapped her body in black plastic sheeting, put her in the grave, and cemented over it. Detective Sergeant Noonan repeatedly put it to Samuel Blackwood that his story didn't add up. He said it was most likely a physical impossibility that the scenario he had described could have caused Marina's death. Samuel Blackwood went to trial for murder at Dublin's Central Criminal Court in April 2025. Prosecuting counsel Geraldine Small told the jury that a guilty verdict on the charge of murder was the only logical one to reach. That this was a case of either self-defense or even manslaughter was nonsense. Samuel had motive to kill Marina in the spring of 2017. He said on many occasions that his wife was threatening to leave him and had been claiming that she had wasted 28 years with him. After nearly 3 decades of obsessively doting on her, he had had enough. The state described Samuel's actions as very calculated, deliberate, and reasoned. According to his own story, instead of seeking medical assistance when she fell limp into his arms, the obsessive husband laid a digital trail suggesting she had planned to leave him. He sent the email to the International Monkey Rescue, desperately stating that it was his last chance with his wife. He needed to obtain those monkeys. Then 4 days later, he traveled to Marina's aunt and uncle's home in Fermoy to ask them if they had seen her, claiming complete ignorance as to her whereabouts. After she was removed and buried under the stairs, he contacted her favorite cousin and offered her their used freezer. Additionally, his account of what happened did not align with the facts, including the absence of an explanation for the shards of glass found on Marina's face. There had to be more to the story, but if there was, Samuel wasn't telling it. The defense called only one witness, and it was not Samuel Blackwood, but rather Marina's half-sister, Lorraine Howard. Lorraine testified that Samuel was obsessed with his wife, referring to her often as his trophy. She described the marriage as controlling and odd, recounting how Samuel spent every penny he had on his wife to dress her up. Lorraine, who had a rocky relationship with her sister, testified that Marina did, in fact, have what she called a vicious temper. However, despite their arguments, she also testified that Marina had never once turned violent. This was the assertion on which Samuel's self-defense claim was based. Defense counsel Brendan Grehan argued that Samuel was far from the criminal mastermind that prosecuting counsel described. Grehan said that to convict him, they wished to place the focus on Samuel's behaviors after Marina's death because they could not prove any intent to kill her existed beforehand. The trial has lasted over 5 weeks, and more than 50 witnesses have testified. The jury, comprising 7 women and 5 men, are tasked with deciding whether Samuel Blackwood is guilty of premeditated murder, of manslaughter, or not guilty by reason of self-defense. As of the publication of this video, we do not yet know what the jury has decided. The onus is on the prosecution to prove that Samuel was not defending himself, as he claims. If the jury finds his version of events was not disproven, he must be acquitted. If jurors believe he was defending himself but used an unreasonable amount of force, Samuel is not guilty of murder but of manslaughter. Of course, they could also find that Samuel was not defending himself at all and acted with intent, in which case the former truck driver is guilty of murder. If that is the case, he faces a mandatory life sentence. If you're watching this further down the line, look to the description below for any updates. And that was the tragic case of Marina Blackwood. Thank you for watching.